Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Szymon Polewka, and I am pleased and honored to welcome you to our new series of debates conducted within our new Polish-Korean cooperation known as Korea Monitor. The project is funded by the UniKorea Foundation and explores European perspective on Korea reunification. I would like to also take this opportunity to warmly welcome our today's guests, who are from overseas, Mr. Antony Bikim, the editor of the Index of Economic Freedom, the Heritage Foundation. Good afternoon, Antony.
Good afternoon. Good evening.
And Mr. Kacper Kita, the expert of Warsaw Institute and Nowy Ład. In our case, we have almost good evening.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be with you today.
Okay. The theme of the debate is Two Nations, One Vision, Poland and South Korea in Changing Geopolitical Landscape. And that somehow brings me to my first question for Mr. Antony. Antony, what are the exact similarities that unites our nations? And can we actually speak about common vision that binds us together?
Thank you, Simon. I'm really delighted to be part of this timely conversation. I mean, more than anything else, I know the true professionalism of the Warsaw Institute over the years. So the fact that you guys are putting together this very timely conversation is really fantastic. And also our dear mutual friend, Liliana Smith, what a wonderful professional she is. So I'm really delighted to be part of this wonderful ongoing collaboration with Warsaw Institute and Liliana and each one of you. Now, the topic is very fitting. We're talking about Poland and South Korea under the theme of two nations, one vision. I think we have a lot of similarity, actually. If you look at geopolitical, geoeconomic situation, South Korea is between China and Japan. Poland, you guys are between Russia and Germany. So that's the kind of the setting that's given to us and Poland, and that's kind of creates common ground in terms of political thinking and foreign policy thinking. But that also challenges us. How can we handle that kind of a geopolitical situation? So not only in terms of geopolitical, geoeconomic setting, I think we have a common vision in terms of how to make things happen rather than being confined by these external settings. So I just summarize the bottom line is Poland and South Korea. I think the two nations, they do share kind of positive forward-looking vision, how to make things happen, how to make things really sort out and make good things happen as we move forward. So I highlight positive forwardness is a common theme between Poland and South Korea.
Thank you, Antony. And Kacper, how does this perspective look from the Polish side?
Well, first of all, since Anthony mentioned it, I also have to thank our dear friend Liliana, who unites all of us, despite the oceans between us. But to the topic, I think that, as Anthony mentioned, Poland and South Korea, despite being geographically distinct, and despite being in very different regions, have a lot of similarity in their history and hopefully also in the future. Because we are both, I would say, middle-sized, ambitious nations with a long history. You know, just next month, Poland will be celebrating 1,000 years since our first king was crowned, when the Duchy of Poland was transformed into the Kingdom of Poland. And Korea obviously has an even more ancient and rich history. But all this time we had to fight. No, we both know that no one ever gave us anything for free, and the prosperity and freedom that today the Koreans and also the Poles can be happy with. This is fruit of many generations of Koreans and Poles who worked, who struggled, who faced a lot of both internal and external difficulties, challenges, obviously with imperialistic minded neighbors, and we both had the horrible experiences of foreign occupation, of fighting wars to survive. But at the same time, we were both capable of surviving. We were both capable of growing our economies. And today, hopefully, we are both capable of looking into the future with helpful, healthy degree of optimism based on the respect for our tradition and our forebears that build all of this, our values that made us who we are, but also a common perspective on the future and a hope for for prosperity for us and future generations, but also a stable and peaceful situation in international affairs. I generally think that a common vision would be certainly a world in which not only the biggest, but also the medium-sized and small nations are respected and have the capability to be free, to be independent, to be prosperous, develop both economically and culturally. And I think that Poland and South Korea have a lot of experience in working towards this goal for a stable, peaceful international order in which the sovereignty of countries such as us is respected. And I hope that together we will work towards this goal.
So thank you, Kacper. And cooperation between our nations is especially visible on the security front. Next month, there is another arms deal worth around $6.2 billion expected to be signed, under which Seoul will sell 180 K2 Black Panthers tanks to Poland. Having that in mind and South Korea experience, Anthony, what are the main security threats that South Korea needs to deal with within its surrounding?
You know, I think Casper also summarized it very well. The Poland and South Korea, these two countries are more than survivors of power competition coming from the geopolitical external factors, more than survivors, and they are also facilitators and innovators of the greater future. So keep that in mind. The whole theme that unites Poland and South Korea is not necessarily about the past, but what's happening at present and what we can do together as we move forward in the future. So on that note, I think that we are facing basically common threats in a sense because this rapidly evolving geopolitical turbulence, whether it's coming from United States or Europe, I think this is a common challenge we have to deal with. But particularly when it comes down to South Korea, obviously there's a big elephant in the room that's North Korea. So as you know well, South Korea always been in very much evolving and up and down tension with the North Korea, militarily, politically, and economically. But that was also kind of an advantage for South Korea in terms of really developing its strong, resilient economy and very vibrant defense industry sector. So all in all, I think that I tend to say, North Korea, people say this is a discount when it comes down to South Korea, but I think that it has been proven to be some kind of premium when it comes down to South Korea's development, not only political and economic developments, but also overall capacity in terms of really notching up its defense and more proactive engagement capacity. So how to translate threats into opportunities, I think that's the kind of challenge, positive challenge Poland and South Korea we share together.
Thank you, Anthony. And how has South Korea over the years learned to deal with the threats that you described?
I think it's coming from various factors. First of all, the values. I think these values, we also share together with Poland and many other countries. It can be as a democracy or a free market. I mean, it's not like a straightforward 45 beautiful degree line, 45-degree line. Always there's a zigzagging. But the direction of South Korea, direction of Poland, despite the ups and downs, I think we can confidently say it has been positive, upward direction. So I want to highlight the internal resilience coming from the growing civil society, and also very much driven orientation in terms of making the economy work. Again, not always it's an easy task, but nonetheless, South Korea over the past 60, 70 years, always moving upward and forward. I think that's the spirit that we can observe from South Korea's economic development experience, but also we can see very similar pattern in Poland. I mean, look at today's Polish economy, how dynamic it is despite the challenging situation, external and internal. So all in all, once again, I think South Korea and Poland, the two countries really share very unique advantage in terms of resilience and in terms of can-do spirit.
Thank you, Anthony. And from our Polish perspective, Kacper, what are the main takeaways that we can learn from the South Korean experience?
Well, certainly, I have to agree with what Anthony just mentioned. Resilience. Resilience is absolutely crucial. Resilience, despite military pressure, despite an unfriendly neighbor, despite possibly also sometimes political instability in your region. These are challenges that Poland also often faced and faces today. And this unique Korean capability of building up one's economy despite instability, externally, despite also sometimes some passionate problems inside one's own politics, which is also something that we have in Poland, and certainly this long-term strategic thinking when it comes to growing one's own companies. This is something that is very impressive, and over the years, I think. Korea was often mentioned in the Polish public debate because of the fact that the Koreans were capable of doing that, of creating, worldwide phenomena such as Samsung, Hyundai, and other companies. I definitely think that Poland can learn from South Korea, and as Anthony said, we should be optimistic about our future, and any threat, any challenge that we have, we should try to think of it as a way, as something that we can transform into something positive, into something that can help us, on one hand, develop economically, but also organize ourselves in a larger societal level in a way that would make us more safe, more secure, more prosperous in the future. And certainly, this is something where we can learn from South Korea, where South Korean example is very impressive, and where I also think we can simply cooperate because of the similarity of both the threats and all the opportunities that we face.
Okay, so thank you for your insight, Kacper. And Anthony, what is the cooperation with Poland like from South Korean experience? And how are Poles and Central European region perceived from the Korean side?
Absolutely positive. This is only the beginning of our journey together. I think there are a lot more things we can do together because we really, as we've been talking about, we have not only similarities, but also very unique, let's say, complementary and kind of aspects. Poland is geostrategically located at the center of Central and Eastern European region. And South Korea, obviously, it's a challenging region, but nonetheless, it's a very important country in Indo-Pacific. I think this is how we can actually connect Trans-Pacific theater and transatlantic theater from Washington's perspective. So my whole thing is that although it seems to be this is a bilateral relationship between Poland and South Korea, ultimately, what we are looking at is actually a trilateral, triangular relationship among Poland, South Korea, and the United States. I mean, look at what's been happening between United States and Poland. Once again, despite some hiccups and challenging situation, I mean, always we expect there will be challenges, but I think in a big picture, there's a strong bonding between Poland and the United States, and there are strong willingness and readiness in terms of forging greater partnership together between Poland and United States. Same story goes to United States and South Korea. So I think this is only the beginning of this vibrant bilateral economic, political, defense partnership between Poland and South Korea, but that will certainly go beyond this bilateral framework. I think this will go into greater, once again, triangular relationship among the three important countries, United States, Poland, and South Korea. And think about this, how lucky we are in terms of this kind of geopolitical, geoeconomic setting, rather than being confined by the external challenges. We are really trying to make greater things happen, moving beyond seemingly confined setting. So I think this is really positive, and I just emphasize once again, this is a beginning of the greater journey we will do together.
Thank you, Anthony. And I would like to also take this opportunity to jump into another topic. So, in the changing international and geopolitical environment, what are the chances of Korean reunification?
Certainly, it's a challenging topic, and no one will have and has any silver bullet answer. I think time will tell, but I think that we may see sort of step by step approach to that big theme. So I wouldn't predict, by when there will be some kind of breakthrough when it comes down to the unification matter. But I think that this is another area where Poland and South Korea can work together, not necessarily making this whole unification process expedited, but the experience, how to really transform small things, step by step. Everything's about really adding and multiplying. So I think, Poland's unique experience coming from the past and South Korea's unique experience coming from the past, how we add and multiply these two, I think that'll be very positive contribution to the whole unification conversation we will and we should have.
Thank you. And Kacper, from Polish perspective, what would Korean reunification mean? And how can we, as Poles, support Korean people in this effort?
Well, certainly, I must say that Korean reunification, despite the fact that it is a very challenging goal, it's certainly something that we should aspire to attain, because it would be really great news for all humanity. It would be both morally just and reasonable, and at the same time, it would unleash great opportunities for economic development. I think that it would, on one hand, stop the suffering of millions of innocent people, but also it could bring upon a more peaceful and balanced Southeastern Asia, which is now a crucial region for the entire world. As Anthony mentioned, both South Korea and Poland are in a very, because of their geographical location, are in really very important places. Also from the perspective of United States and this trilateral relationship with Poland, America, and South Korea, but also in the context of a global rivalry between America and China. Nobody wants World War III. Koreans, Poles, and dozens of other nations have really suffered enough in previous conflicts, and Korean reunification would be an immensely important step in diffusing a potential source of a disastrous global conflict. So really, harmony and stability on the Korean Peninsula and in Southeastern Asia, and at the same time in Central and Eastern Europe, where Poland is located, these are all, I think, intertwined. And these are all goals that are very important for the entire mankind, since we are all now connected economically, technologically, and we should all work towards a peaceful and stable future. And Poles know firsthand what communism is. We have this unfortunate experience that unfortunately is today the case in North Korea. But we also know that life is possible after communism, that life is possible after these immense suffering, and that rebuilding and achieving prosperity, even with a low starting point, is certainly something achievable. So we have simply security reasons. Currently, Kim Jong-un is helping Vladimir Putin in attacking Ukraine, sending his soldiers to participate in the war in Ukraine, which is, only bringing more misery both to Koreans and to Ukrainians, and also less stability, less peace in both our regions. And such actions affect negatively many other nations, including America and obviously also Poland. So we must work towards efforts concentrated on peace in Korean Peninsula and Korean reunification. And we should welcome all efforts in this regard, such as those, for example, initiated by President Trump during his first term in office. And if Korean reunification were to happen one day, and I hope that we can gradually, step by step, work towards this direction, I hope that also Poland could be, to a degree, helpful, as Anthony said, because of our unique experience, because of our own successful post-communist transformation, where Poland gained over 800% GDP growth in the first 30 years since the fall of communism here. And I hope that one day the whole of Korea will also be able to experience this prosperity that South Korea is happy to have now.
Okay, so thank you,
If I
Kasper.
may, Simon, you
Yes,
just
of course.
witnessed this energy from Casper. I mean, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Obviously, we cannot resolve this issue, unification issue, overnight. It's going to take time. But this kind of positive thinking and can-do spirit and realistic perspective in terms of connecting necessary people and ideas, I think that's the playground, unique, strategic, practical playground where Poland and South Korea once again collaborate, work together, and expand and deepen our friendship and partnership all together.
Thank you,
Thank you very
Kasper, and thank you, Anthony. Okay, so gentlemen, we have some extra questions from a commentary section. So I will start with the question for Anthony. So, wait a minute. Yes, so is K-pop just entertainment, or does it also serve as a strategic tool in South Korea's foreign policy?
I tend to think so, but I guess it is a byproduct of kind of a bigger picture because this is a part of the soft power. K-pop and other cultural dimension of diplomacy is always important. But it's good to know that Poland likes K-pop and other matters related to Korean culture. That's another good kind of aspect of our bilateral relationship. Obviously, we want to have a bit more muscular economic, diplomatic, political engagements, but without soft power, everything will be so dry and too boring. So I really think that this is a nice addition to and facilitator in terms of getting the two countries closer and closer. And really, I think once again, I must emphasize what a wonderful beginning of the greater journey together we are going through. We actually been going through over the past 5 or 6 years. And before, I think it was a bit lukewarm, but I think that in a sense, what has been happening in Europe really put South Korea, Poland really closer together because of the reality as well as mutual willingness. So once again, let's see how this can go deeper and higher and wider. But I think this is a basically very welcome development. And the more we engage, the better outcome we'll enjoy all together for sure.
So thank you, Artoni. And in the commentary section, I have very similar question, but this time for Kacper. So it's about our Polish perspective. So could Poland replace South Korea's success in exporting culture through soft power?
Well, it would be very demanding since the Koreans were really successful in this regard. Perhaps in this regard, even, it would be interesting to discuss whether Koreans were more successful in this or perhaps in their military industry, which is certainly something very important also in terms of, gaining your independence. I think also going back to your previous question, something that is really crucial is developing one's own military industry. And this is something that the Koreans are really impressive impressive, and I hope that Poland will follow in this example gradually. And I think it's similar with developing your own culture. And I think combining what is unique to your culture, to your tradition, to your identity, with modernity, with modern technology, with how young people today think, what they want, what is attractive for them. This is, I think, something that Korea was really capable of doing, and certainly I think that this is an example to follow. And I hope that in the future, Poles will try to do the same, because I don't think it's impossible, but as all things that have value, it really demands time, concentrated effort, and a strategy. And I think that it's really something that you have to do when you want to be present. Not only, of course, being present, politically and economically is much more important, but being present on a cultural level, in the sense that people worldwide know that you know who you are, have a positive attitude towards you, is also something that can be a facilitating factor in building your global position. I think this is here we touch upon an interesting a problem of how people from Europe and people from other regions get together. And I think that culture, in this case, music, and but also, for example, Korean filmography has been really developing recent years, and a lot of people in Poland and in other countries in Europe, seeing that, the Koreans have some really good films. It's really a way in which we can, despite of differences, despite obviously geography, we can really build ties, and this is something that also has its own added value.
Casper, really well said. I'll just add a few minor points here. I mean, in the end, it's important for us to have a government to government, Polish government
Mm.
to South Korean government. It's also important business to business, company to company, South Korean companies to Polish companies. But ultimately, this is really about people to people. This is really about you and me. So I think this is a really an important basis for our greater relationship. And also, I want to highlight, as a big fan of Polish lot, it's great to know there are direct flights between Warsaw and Seoul. That's how people can get connected, travel and see each other and listen to each other. So I think we are really in a good setting in terms of forging greater partnership and friendship as we move into a greater future together.
It's wonderful to
Uh,
hear that, Anthony, and we will work towards that.
and do you
Absolutely.
have gentlemen, more information how this business-to-business approach works and cooperation between our nations, not only in military front?
I think absolutely we have to go beyond just the defense industry cooperation. I mean, that's very important. That's how actually we jump-started our conversation, our interaction between Poland and South Korea. But this is, once again, only the beginning. I think we can do a lot more. And this conversation we are going through today, this very timely conversation, is one dimension of greater interaction between Poland and South Korea. And I also add Washington, D.C. So I really want to grow this bilateral relationship between Washington and Poland, Washington and South Korea, Poland and South Korea. I mean, we have a wonderful, wonderful opportunities and factors we can connect. So we shouldn't miss out this opportunity. Nowadays, things seems to be too chaotic, moving too fast, a lot of factors here and there. But I think that this is really blessings in disguise. As we see things through, as we connect these quality dots all together, I think we can make greater things happen really without any exaggeration.
Yeah, I think that we obviously the defense industry is crucial for security reasons, and it's very good that we have started with this level. But I also think that we have to remember that we have other Korean investments in Poland. We have a cooperation, for example, in the transport sector, in the electromobility sector, in battery production. I think that Poland and Korea can really cooperate in making our industries grow. And I hope that Korea is the largest Asian investor in Poland, and I hope that with Korean experience, Poland can also um, be more and more innovative when it comes to our own industry. We can learn from one another, and I hope that we will build up on more and more levels, not just defense sector, but also many other levels. We have the energy sector as well, and many others.
Absolutely.
Thank
The
you.
whole package is in front of us, whole package.
Exactly.
And I hope that the future is bright when it comes to our cooperation. And gentlemen, I also got another very interesting question in commentary section. So, what do Poland and South Korea fear more? A neighbor's aggression or the unreliability of our alliance?
Sorry, Simon, could you repeat the question?
So, what do Poland and South Korea fear more? A neighbor's aggression on or the unreliability of our alliance, that we can't trust our alliance?
If I understand the question correctly, I think everything's there. I think this is not just a one dimensional kind of feeling or situation. I think that's why we say this is a challenging situation, yet this is an opportunity for greater partnership and friendship. So I tend to think that we are really into a greater opportunity together. And again, it'll take time, but our willingness, the fact that we are doing this conversation today and we'll do more. So I think obviously there will be a lot more action and engagement. Again, I highlight not only at the governmental level, but business and people to people. That's how I get more excited about this bilateral relationship and the potential it can bring us all together.
Thank you, Anthony. And at the very end, I have an extra question for Kacper. So, in the eye of upcoming Polish election, could potential result of the election influence our cooperation between Poland and South Korea?
Well, I think that basically Polish-Korean relationship has been developing in recent years, despite governments changing both in Poland and South Korea. So I'm hopeful for the future. And also, we see that certainly the previous Polish government was very excited by developing a strategic partnership with Korea, especially in the defense industry. At the same time, it was under the previous government, that was the Liberal government, that the strategic partnership was inaugurated. Then the Conservative government was very much got more invested in the relationship. And now with the current government, we see that they also are interested, as we see with, for example, the recent visit of South Korean foreign minister in Poland. Our outgoing president Andrzej Duda is also interested. He visited South Korea twice during his presidency, which is obviously a good example of that. And I think that whoever wins the election in May, I think it would be there's no anti-Korean political party in Poland. Obviously, everyone is more or less invested. Also, for example, with another growing party on the right, Confederacja. Just recently, one of most important MEPs, Anna Bryłka, mentioned that when we had the debate about European defense industry, that we should be aware of the fact that we have to have not only European but also American and Korean, for example, investments. So we should in our military. At the same time, I think that if the more pro-EU candidate wins, Rafał Trzaskowski, then he will probably be more focused on European cooperation than extra-European partners like America or Korea. But I also don't think that any result would be something harmful for our relationship. Hopefully.
Thank Thank you. And Anthony, are Korean people interested in Polish election?
Absolutely. I think I don't know exact number, how many people, how much degree they pay attention to, but I do know that obviously at this particular juncture, it's an important political event in Poland, and I'm sure you Polish people pay attention to what's happening in South Korea as well. But I want to highlight what Casper said. I think our relationship is actually go beyond any one political party, one prime minister, or one president. I think this is a really kind of really the relationship that goes far beyond any political colors. Red, right, blue, left, doesn't really matter. If we put it that way, this is really about people to people's engagement. And I think that we are on a certain altitude. This plane, if this is a plane, Poland, South Korea airplane, I think we took off and we actually are at cruising altitude. And there will be, of course, some turbulence, but we expect that. But that doesn't mean this airplane will get crushed or something like that. So I think I stay very optimistic about the future we can build together. And that's why this conversation we are having today is very timely and important. This is another stepping stone towards a greater conversation, whether it's economic relationship, unification, or as I mentioned, Washington, Warsaw, Seoul, trilateral partnerships. So many things we can talk about and take action together.
Thank you. So as it comes of the result of the election, we'll find it out very soon. So, gentlemen, I would like to sincerely thank you for your contribution to our first debate. And as for you, our dear listeners, I would like to invite you to our next events and to our next debates. Follow us and see you soon. Dziękuję.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you, gentlemen.